From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. I want to talk about gender today. I want to devote the program to gender. And my headline here, my top line is, it's so stupid. Oh my God, gender is so stupid. I will be glad when there's just no such thing as gender. If I could jump in my time machine and move ahead to where gender is just meaningless, or it's, it could still be there, but just for fun, just for entertainment purposes only. Okay? Because there's a lot of fun you can have with gender. It can be a really great way to relate to each other. It has great entertainment value. But in the world we're in right now, our ideas about gender are they couldn't be more backwards and weird. I'll tell you what triggered this. Let me play you a short clip of something I just stumbled on in my feed. One of these guys, I don't even know who he is. I'm not even going to credit him. He's just one of these guys who thinks he knows things. Anyway, just listen to this and see what you think.
Here's what I think masculinity means. I think it means loyalty. I think it means wanting to protect your partner. I think it also means loving and respecting them. A truly masculine male is in control of his own domain, but is also respectful and chivalrous and all of those things. That's what it means.
Okay, so there it is. Okay, the reason I have trouble with this is just go down his list. Loyalty, wanting to protect your partner, loving and respecting them. Yeah, good, great, wonderful qualities. How in the world are those masculine qualities? Because to say they're masculine infers that they're not feminine qualities. Traditional gendered women don't have these qualities. A woman shouldn't be loyal. A woman shouldn't want to protect her partner. A woman shouldn't love and respect their partner. Well, of course they should. This just doesn't make any sense. To separate masculine and feminine in these ways. A truly masculine male is in control of his own domain. So a feminine female is not in control of her own domain? Who is in control of her own domain? This is not only stupid, 1,000% completely stupid, it's also dangerous. It's incredibly dangerous to think that men should be in control of their domain. And by saying that's a masculine trait, you're suggesting that women shouldn't be in control of their own domain? Well, I guess not. I guess men have to be in control. Stupid is bad enough. This is horribly dangerous thinking. So this made me curious. I asked my good friend the internet for masculine traits. And I looked around at, the old University of Google thing, jumped down rabbit holes, and here's what I found. This is what the internet had to share with me. God, this is dumb. Okay, so these are masculine traits. Strength, courage, independence, leadership, assertiveness, self-reliance. They go into some detail here. Let's see, self-reliance, a quality that is important for men, as people often look to them for leadership and help. All right. Okay. Stoicism, a tendency to be unaffected by challenges and to control or suppress emotions. Suppressing emotions. Interesting. And finally, rationality. Okay, the internet is being especially sexist here, a trait that is often associated with men. Again, my question remains the same. How are these not qualities that all people should have, men and women? Shouldn't women be strong? Shouldn't they have courage? Shouldn't they have independence? To suggest these are masculine traits suggests that women don't need them. Women shouldn't be leaders. They shouldn't be assertive or self-reliant. They shouldn't be able to control their emotions and be stoic when it's appropriate. And of course, we know they're not rational. What world do we live in where this is the consensus? So, internet, what then are feminine qualities? What are feminine traits? And here's what the internet told me. Empathy. A natural trait for women, empathy is the ability to understand and relate to others. And intuition, a feminine trait that can be essential for finding purpose and inner strength. Collaboration, women tend to value collaboration and diversity. Resilience, women tend to be able to bounce back from adversity more quickly than men. Nurturing, a natural trait for women. Okay, you're going to tell us how women and men are naturally different. This one offends me as a father. This offends me. Nurturing is the ability to care for and support others. Yeah, that offends me as a father. Adaptability, a feminine trait that can be beneficial in many areas of life. And finally, creativity, a feminine trait that can be essential for finding purpose and inner strength. How is that not true for men? This really gets me. Every quality, empathy, intuition, collaboration, nurturing, adaptability, resilience, creativity, all good qualities. These are things we should all shoot for. All men should shoot for these qualities. These are good things. Just like all women should strive to be strong and courageous and independent, show leadership, assertiveness, be self-reliant, and be able to rely on their rational minds when it's necessary. Traditional gender roles and gender norms and gender expectations are just stupid, and I've had it with them. And this brings me to my second story here of the day. Recently, Bill Maher on Real Time, on his show, he gets into the whole sports thing. He did a whole big segment. There was an article in Scientific American, and Bill Maher, as he is wont to do, pulled out a quote out of context and just jumped on it to prove his point. And the quote was, and I'll also give you this, it's not a very well-written quote. It was asking for trouble. And here it is. Inequity between male and female athletes is a result not of inherent biological differences between the sexes, but of biases in how they are treated in sports. Now, this is one quote pulled out of a many, many, many thousand-word article from Scientific American. The article basically argues that men, generally speaking, are stronger and better at shorter-term sports, and that women are better at endurance sports. It doesn't say that men and women are equal, always the same. It's only because of societal expectations. No. It was very long, and I read the article, which clearly Bill Maher did not. He obviously didn't read the article. The article absolutely does not argue that men and women are identical or have identical average performance across all sports. It was talking about something very specific. And there is a gap between men and women, and that gap does close, especially when you get into things like ultramarathons, and yeah, there is an endurance thing. So anyway, Scientific American, again, I read the article. I'm not going to attempt to give you a synopsis because it was a Scientific American. It was really dense. It was just packed, jam-packed with information, statistics, studies, research. Much of it going over my head, and I could never do it justice. That's the point. It's Scientific American. They're experts. They know what they're talking about. And Maher got a couple of articles confused with each other because there was a second article which actually came earlier. The title, "The Theory That Men Evolved to Hunt and Women Evolved to Gather," is wrong. That came out in November of last year. The influential idea that in the past men were hunters and women were not isn't supported by the available evidence. Again, these are scientists, anthropologists, biologists. From a biological standpoint, there are undeniable differences between females and males. But when we discuss these differences, we're typically referring to means. Averages of one group compared with another. Means obscure the vast range of variation in humans. For instance, although males tend to be larger and to have bigger hearts and lungs and more muscle mass, there are plenty of females who fall within the typical male range. The inverse is also true. You know, it's all on a scale. It's all on a range. It's all on a simple bell curve that we can all understand. There are going to be some biological freaks, like they often point to the swimmer, Phelps. who was just, by any standard, a freak. He just had these long arms and legs and this strength, and he had. So it's a wonderland. All of us fit somewhere on that bell curve, and there are some on the extremes. There are some very, very strong, athletic women. There are some very, very weak, soft men. It's all okay. Well, all right. So Bill Maher is just latching onto that quote, which I confess is not a very good quote. But again, he obviously didn't read the article. But the second article came out about a year later. And that the headline there, Sports Celebrate Physical Variation Until It Challenges Social Norms. Human anatomy is delightfully varied, they say. But female athletes are heavily criticized for not conforming to socially accepted bodily norms. So, two very lengthy, very dense scientific articles that Bill Maher obviously didn't read. But he latched on to the fact that the editor of Scientific American, Laura Helmuth, resigned under pressure. Now, he just says flat out, it's because of this one quote. Well, that's just simply wrong. He got so much wrong. And I feel compelled to talk about this because, maybe you saw a headline, or maybe you saw the show itself, but more likely you saw little clips, you saw a little TikTok, 30-second clips, and you think you know what's going on, but you don't. Anyway, Scientific American editor-in-chief, quit just a couple months ago. And again, Mark claimed it was because of the trans quote, but there were many reasons. She was under some real pressure. She'd been editor-in-chief for 4.5 years. She got pretty political in her personal posts. Americans who voted for Donald Trump were racist, sexist, and fascist, according to Laura Helmuth. I agree with it. But it's not the kind of thing, I guess you can say. That's why I was never the editor of Scientific American. The only reason. I certainly would have been the editor-in-chief of Scientific American, but I want to be free to say things like this. So for that reason, and for only that reason, that's why I never became the editor of Scientific American. Yeah. So also, as a publication, she made this decision, or the magazine did under her helm, to endorse Joe Biden in 2020 and to endorse Kamala Harris in 2024. Scientific American had never endorsed a candidate before, a presidential candidate. That was a first. But they did it because the Orange Menace was so extreme in his anti-science agenda. So they felt they should do that. Again, kind of controversial. Things are building up here, and to the point where she felt like, I guess I better resign. They also cited an article on social movements and oppressive societies. Again, have you ever read Scientific American? It's dense. It's real. It's legit. So this anthropological study they did, well, they didn't conduct the study themselves, but the studies they reported on talked about the history of social movements and oppressive societies. Oh, we can't talk about oppression. And then I think this was the real nail in the coffin, a big long article about the medical necessity of abortion. Abortion is necessary health care from a scientific point of view. Now, I didn't read all of these articles, but I've read enough of Scientific American to know, what they do. So it finally came down to, well, I guess I got to go. Helmuth said, she wrote, I respect and value people across the political spectrum. I'm committed to civil communication and editorial objectivity. And she decided to take some time off and rethink her career. But Bill Maher made it all about, I misgendered. Oh my God, I misgendered Bill Maher. He made it all about that one quote about male and female athletes, took it all out of context, didn't bother to read all the nuance of the article. And then he's got Neil deGrasse Tyson as a guest on this show where he's talking about this issue. And he made such big headlines, and he got so many little TikTok hits on his little 30-second rant because he couldn't get Neil deGrasse Tyson to agree with his foolishness. He was just insisting. So male and female athletes are exactly the same, and it's only society that is just misrepresenting this whole thing. Tyson is laughing at him, refuses to join in, and Maher is like these MAGA committee members. What is a man? What is a woman? I insist you answer. So he couldn't get Tyson to agree with him. Tyson is laughing at him, and then they put out all these little 30-second TikToks, making it look like Tyson's the fool, and Maher destroyed him. It's all just, no. The Supreme Court recently heard oral arguments on the issue of transgender in kids. There was a ban on transgender health care for minors in, I think, Tennessee. The case is U.S. versus Scrimeti. And some families brought the case challenging this law, challenging this ban. Supreme Court made it up to the Supreme Court. They had oral arguments back in December, and based on the questioning, you can often tell on the day of oral arguments how they're going to go. It looks like they're going to side with Tennessee. They're going to uphold the ban on transgender care for minors. The law bans the use of puberty blockers and hormone therapy for transgender teens. Of course, the decision will come at the end of the term, which they always do. So we don't know the result yet of this. But it looks like we know where they're going. The law was enacted in 2023, the Tennessee law, and it declares that the state has a, quote, compelling interest in encouraging minors to appreciate their sex, particularly as they undergo puberty. How is that the business of lawmakers? I don't know. I mean, if there was evidence, I'm going to try to be generous here. If there was any evidence of like some wide-ranging money-making scheme, if there were evil doctors trying to steer children into treatments and to manipulate or defraud, I would listen to that evidence. Show me some. There was none. Zero, absolutely zero evidence that there's anything like that going on. That's the argument you'll hear. Oh, they're making money hand over fist, convincing kids to change their gender. Come on. If there was evidence to that, I'd listen to it. But there's not. Show me the evidence. Zero. There's none. The only thing they have on their side is pretend made-up nightmares. And all the other side has is sound medical, psychological consensus. Now, again, this opens up a much wider topic that we can't get into today. But no, I'm not going to automatically just listen to experts, but come on. We have to at least operate on best evidence. Can you give me at least that much? No, I'm not going to bow to someone just because they're an expert. But if there's a consensus among an entire field, it's like climate crisis. 90, 98, 99%, there's a supermajority to the point of almost unanimous consensus on transgender issues. From pediatricians, from medical associations, from psychologists, any group, all of them, all the researchers. How am I going to argue with that? Well, I have my opinion. No, my opinion doesn't count. I look at consensus. Again, that's a much bigger sort of philosophical, critical thinking conversation that we have to have. But on transgender issues and transgender youth, the MAGA types and the Project 2025 types just haven't got a leg to stand on. It's just a boogeyman for them because they hate, because they're bigots. I don't know. And these very same people are the ones who are always crying about parental rights. Well, these are families, these are parents trying to protect their transgender children. But you want to take away the rights of parents and families and give those decisions to legislatures? How hypocritical are you? You're the parents' rights people. And there's no trans kid doing this without their parents. There's no doctor swooping into the schools and taking kids like the Orange Menace was actually saying in the recent campaign about how a boy goes to school and comes home a girl. I mean, it was just so laughably ridiculous and people bought it. And speaking of Project 2025, you got to know, they're using this whole, what about the children, to get their foot in the door because they already have this extreme position of two genders and only two genders, and they want to deny the very existence of people in their natural state of being. Project 2025 equates being transgender or adopting what they call transgender ideology to pornography. They put them in the same camp. It's an ideology. Transgender is an ideology. Nobody else thinks this. None of the nearly unanimous consensus of experts thinks this, but Project 2025 does. They declare it literally should be outlawed. Read Project 2025. Transgender ideology, they call it, should be outlawed. The federal government would enforce sex discrimination laws on the, quote, biological binary meaning of sex. And educators and public librarians who spread the concept of being transgender, it's a concept now, educators and public librarians would be registered as sex offenders. This is how extreme these people are. You know, you may have heard, as I have, that many traditional Native American tribes, indigenous people all around the world for that matter, have the concept of the two-spirit people. Individuals who did not conform to our sort of Western binary gender system were often recognized and respected as two-spirit people. Now, I always have to say this, of course, there are many tribes with many differences. You don't want to generalize. But the fact is that it's very common in Native American tribes. It is widespread, okay? It's not an anomaly. It's not an exception. It signified this third gender that embodied both masculine and feminine traits, essentially encompassing what is now understood as transgender identities within the modern context. Many tribes viewed two-spirit people as spiritually gifted and often held important roles within the community, including roles as healers or ceremonial leaders. So respect. And if you don't want to listen to people who inhabited our land for tens of thousands of years before we did, and if you're more of a science guy, well, here's the science. It's scientific fact that humans come in two varieties, XX for female and XY for male. That's the X chromosome and the Y chromosome. Except there are some exceptions. You can be born appearing female, but you can grow a penis at age 12. Yep, there's some people. Remember the bell curve I was talking about earlier? There are people along the range, all sorts of people. You can be born legally male with an X and a Y chromosome, but your body is insensitive to androgens and you appear female. Okay. You can be born legally male with an X and a Y chromosome and have a penis and testes and a uterus and fallopian tubes. Yeah, that person exists. That's within the realm. That's within the range. Again, it's a bell curve. It's not everybody. There are few people on each end of the bell curve, but, anybody can be in this range. You can be born legally male with an X and a Y chromosome, but your Y chromosome is missing the SRY gene, which gives you a female body. So none of this falls into the Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace idea, MAGA idea, Project 2025 idea, that there are just two genders and they're clearly identifiable and oppositional. You can be born legally female with two X chromosomes, but one of the X's has an SRY gene, which gives you a male body. You can be born legally female with two X chromosomes and also a Y chromosome, which gives you a male body. You can be born legally female with two X chromosomes, but your adrenaline gland doesn't produce enough cortisol and your body develops as a male. You can be born with XX chromosomes and XY chromosomes, both. That's something called chimerism. This is all science, folks. So if you just want to rely on this, God made Adam and Eve, man and woman, no exceptions, there's no range, well, you're just a bigot. I should say, you're just wrong. Maybe you're not a bigot. Maybe you just didn't know these things. Well, now you do, and you can look them up. University of Google is a wonderful thing. You can check the sources and everything. You can double check, cross check. if there's a God, that God created humans in many, many variations. And the 2 boxes to check, either male or female, doesn't apply to everybody. And I'll end this with my very extreme position. I have an extreme position to sew this all up. I really wish all of us could just live comfortably in the body that we were born in. I'm not really crazy about the hormones and the surgeries, and I really wish we could just, everybody's different. And I wish we could be comfortable in the bodies we were born in. I would like you to dress however the hell you want to dress. I want you to act however you want to act. I want you to be nice. I want you to be kind. I want you to be strong and courageous and independent and have leadership. And I want you to have empathy and intuition. And I want you to be nurturing and creative. Go for all those things. But however you want to go about it, it's all you. Whatever hobbies you want to have, whatever interests. Again, wear makeup, don't wear makeup. Wear nail polish, don't wear nail polish. Dress however you want. Wear high heels, wear sneakers, I don't care. Use any bathroom you want. Anyone. Why this should matter is crazy to me. Just wash your hands. And don't pee on the toilet seat, okay? It's pretty easy. And then play any sport you want. Under the rules of the sport itself, I have nothing to say about it. But see, the problem is that requires, if we were able to do that, just live comfortably in the body we're born in, dress how we want, act how we want, use the bathroom we want, play any sport we want. In order for that to work, that requires the rest of us to shut up and love you for who you are. All of us. We just have to shut up and love you for who you are. And I admit, regrettably, that we do not live in that world right now. We're far from it. So if you feel you have to go the hormone and surgery route, or whatever procedures are necessary to get you where you want to be, I'm not going to say you can't do it. I understand. But I just wish you didn't have to. Because none of this is your fault. It's our fault. If we just lived up to the absolute bare minimum of accepting people for who they are, then you wouldn't have to go through all of this. None of this is your fault. It's our fault. So, yeah, when people are fighting for the right to go through the hormone therapy and the surgery and the transitioning, even for young kids, with the support of their family, their parents, I'm with you. I wish you didn't have to do it. I wish we lived in a world where none of that was necessary ever for anybody. Just live happily and be accepted in the body you were born with. I wish that was the case, but, there you are. All right. Well, this and all other podcasts can be found on your favorite platform. It can also be found at charlespurcell.com. Thanks to our flagship terrestrial station, River West Radio, riverwestradio.com. Contact me, Charles Purcell, at Gmail. Follow on Facebook. Peter Donalds wrote and performed the theme song. All right. I love you. Take care.